Alright guys, Simon here. We're playing Socrates Jones, Pro Philosopher, and Chapter 3, The Social Contract. Well, at the end of the last video, I was talking about how, the problem with individually defining morality is that at some point you have to negotiate with other people if you have disagreements. So this is kind of what the social contract is about, is the fact that morality exists as agreements between people. So let's have a go with this, see how this goes. Well, the original Socrates may have bested the arbiter's challenge, but that's two philosophers down and I don't feel any closer to our goal. It always seems to be just out of reach, doesn't it? Do not worry, there are still near infinite perspectives to examine. In fact, I already have another philosopher ready for you to debate. Oh, that's good. Wonderful. So who's the next philosopher? Is it another Greek dude? Because frankly I'm getting sick of Greek dudes. No, this one's British. Oh, how exciting. Yes, I'm simply ecstatic. What's the matter, Socrates? Do you no longer wish to continue? ... Hold on, I never said that. Of course I wish to continue. Dad? Very well then, give us a moment, Socrates, and I'll bring the new philosopher out. Hello? Albert, are you sure this is the right guy? He isn't doing anything. Maybe he's dead. Well, humbug! He can speak! Yes, he can. He can also twirl his mustache. Of course I can speak, you silly girl. I just chose not to. You waste time with small words, and small words are the money of fools. Wait, so fools have a lot of money then? Anyway, Albert, who is this guy? You may refer to me as Thomas Hobbs. You should know, Mr. Jones, that my mother gave birth to twins, myself and Fear. What does it even mean? By the end of the day, you'll be thoroughly acquainted with both of us. Isn't he a dramatic one? Hobbes, you may present your argument. Of course, Arbiter. Allow me to begin by describing to you the natural state of man. In the natural state, men find themselves equal and in competition for resources. What is we'll question them later. Being selfish, they will go to any lengths to achieve their desires. This sets them at odds with every other man, creating a constant state of war. Ceaseless conflict makes life nasty, brutish, and short. And there we go, the natural state of mankind. The natural state. Mankind is selfish? But wait, you said nothing about morality. Of course not. In the natural state, there is no morality. There's nothing binding us to respect one another and nothing stopping us from killing each other. Well, that's depressing. And ridiculous. Of course there's a sense of right and wrong. I would say there's no way this philosophy can possibly be the correct answer. You seem rather sure of yourself, Mr. Joe. Shall we put your theories to the test? Gladly. People work together, added to the idea slate. Careful. In the natural state, men find themselves equal and in competition for resources. I don't even know what the natural state means. What's natural? What's natural? What do you mean by that? Left to their own, men will all want the same things, but they cannot all get them. But they don't want the same things. And they don't... resources aren't always that limited. It's assuming that people want the same things. It's also assuming that resources are limited in such a way that there isn't enough to satisfy everyone. And remember he's English, and actually Hobbes. Thomas Hobbs, right? That's just good. Like, also remember that English philosopher, that their philosophies are affected by their own experiences too. So, back in Athens, there's the Athenian democracy and the way people kind of disagree with each other. So that gives rise to certain ideas. As for Hobbes, he lived 1588 to 1679. That's around about the Renaissance or after the Renaissance. So, I mean, like the context, the historical context gives rise to some of these ideas. It's not necessarily their, entirely just their ideas, but what they see in the world around them leads them to come to certain conclusions about the nature of, things like morality. So civil war in England, the experience of war and those sorts of experiences with politics and then things. The fact that it wasn't a democracy, there was like a monarchy at that time. I mean, what about ideas? Social contract tradition, yeah. Life in a state of nature is solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. I mean, in a way, he's describing the people of that time, I think. I mean, I don't think any of us would... I don't know, I wouldn't come to that conclusion, as I wanted to say that the natural state of man are those things. I think that he's affected by anyway. Alright, in the natural state, men find themselves equal and in competition for resources. Crystal backing. Like, in competition for resources, like he's saying that because during his time, there was competition for resources, because of a population explosion and whatnot. But that's not necessarily true. If the population is low and resources are plentiful, then that wouldn't be true. Mr. Jones, in the natural state, no man orders any other about. They all compete as equals, using only their natural facilities. There are things we desire, food, water, and shelter, for example. They are not unlimited in quantity, but they are also not necessarily scarce. The amount of people wanting vastly outstrips the quantity of the wanted. That's an assumption, or that's depends on the circumstances. As a result, men must compete for their desires in the natural state, right? Christian relevance. How is this related to your conclusion? The fact that men pursue their desires is the source of all human behaviour. Okay. And as a result, my arguments depend on it, alright. Being selfish, they will go to any lengths to achieve their desires. Ask for clarification. What do you mean by that? Men see what they want and they will grub and squabble if necessary to get it, even to the extent of stabbing each other in the back. Except, being selfish, they will go to any lengths to achieve their desires. If cooperating will allow them to get what they want, they will cooperate, because they are selfish. 2. That also works. Press on backing, can you back that up? Tell me, Mr. Jones, why do you stand here debating philosopher after philosopher? I'm playing a video game, because it's interesting to me. Do you simply do it for the fun of it? Yes. No, it's the only way I can get home. No, I do it for the fun of it. Exactly, like all men, you are motivated by personal interest. So motivated that you would try something you as an accountant are not inclined to do or think. Yo! As you can see, my point stands strong. Question relevance. How does this support your conclusion? If men didn't wish to achieve their desires, there would be no conflict. Thus, their selfish pursuit is essential to my hypothesis. This system at odds with every other man, creating a constant state of war. That's not true, because war does not actually get anyone what they want. What people want is peace and comfort and security, and war doesn't give them that. What do you mean by that? Unable to achieve the same ends, men must fight to gain an upper hand. In such a world, force and fraud are the only cardinal virtues. Talk about a bleak view of humanity. Except the world's not like that. Anyway, question, press for backing, can you support that statement? As men would do anything possible to achieve their goals, and they all want the same thing, but they don't. In the natural state, they have nothing to do but to fight. They won't do anything possible to achieve their goals. they won't compromise their goals to achieve their goals. Does that make sense? It's not anything possible. Will two starving men ever let the other have the last slice of bread? Possibly, if there's other food besides bread. Will two people in love with the same subject ever concede with ease? Possibly. Depends what the subject wants. Of course, he's making a lot of assumptions. In the natural state, when people want the same thing, they fight for it. No, that's an assumption. Does men are at war always and forever? Is that so? Alright, let's just challenge him. People work together.
Nonsense!
Yes. Hobbs, your argument here is about as weak as they come. You claim that people are in constant state of war, but I see people cooperate every day. Is that so? Yes, societies are in fact built upon such cooperation. Employees in a business collaborate to create a product. Construction workers get together to build a house. Police work together to take down criminals. Philosophers work together to find the truth. This guy. Exactly. Thank you, Arbiter. Well, Thomas Hobbs, if people were always at war, none of these things would be possible. Society as we know couldn't exist. What do you have to say to that? I say that you are merely an observer of the obvious, Mr. Jones. Yeah, well, you didn't observe it, I did. You insult my intelligence. No, you insult my intelligence. Do you really think I didn't consider such things? No, but you thought I hadn't considered such things. Our sense of morality is what allows us to cooperate in such a fashion. Our sense of morality is what allows us to cooperate in such a fashion. Or is it our ability to cooperate defines morality? How do you know? How do you know which one is which? But wait, hold on. You said earlier there was no morality. Indeed, in the natural state, this is true. But that's not the natural state. Humans have always lived in societies and family groups and clans and tribes and villages. Like, humans have never been individual animals. Like, we've always cooperated to survive. Long before there was history, humans kind of live, like monkeys. Monkeys and apes, they travel in groups to survive. They don't move and live alone. They can't survive alone. We're social animals. Anyway, however, as such a state is extremely uncomfortable, we have long since moved beyond it. We were never in that state to start with, bro. Allow me to explain to you, Mr. Jones, the step you have missed. This guy, can I punch him in the face yet? At the core of mankind's self-interest is survival. Okay? However, in the natural state there is no security, I said that. Thus, mankind is impelled to seek peace, forming contracts between individuals. It is from such exchanges that our sense of morality is born. And there you have it. Our moral rules, our society, our political systems, they all come from the social contract. A very compelling argument indeed. How did this happen? I thought for sure we were ready to move on. You walked right in that one, Dad. Helped him set it up and everything. Yeah, but that's because he didn't set it up himself. He had to have me set it up for him. Hobbes is one of those most prominent social contract philosophers. It's only natural he took his argument in this direction. What? You knew this? Why didn't you warn me? I assume you already knew. Yeah, I knew. I was waiting for him to get to it. I mean, it's not uncommon knowledge, It is uncommon. Is there a problem, Socrates? Or are you ready to accept the truth of my arguments? Well, his argument seems pretty solid now, that's for sure. But something built on a premise so grim, I just can't accept it without explanation. It's not that grim. I mean, people work together to survive. It's not that grim. It's kind of true. Anyway, Arbiter, I'd like to ask Mr. Hobb a few questions. Scholastic thinking, I hardly see the attraction in it. Very well, Mr. Jones, give it a shot. See how it goes. At the core of mankind's self-interest is survival. It's actually not. It's actually not, because nobody survives forever. I mean, all of us die at some point. I mean, mortality is something that we haven't escaped yet, and I don't think we will anytime soon. So self-interest is not actually survival. I mean, biologically we're motivated to pass on our genes, but even that is more complicated than you might assume. Because, for example, passing on your genes might not actually mean having children yourself. That sounds crazy, right? But consider that your brothers and sisters have almost the same genes you do. And so, if you sacrifice your life to make sure that your brother or sister will live on, you are actually passing on your genes, because your genes and your brothers and sisters come from your parents. So it's pretty much the same genes. There's a little bit of difference, but mostly it's the same genes. So doing that is actually also passing on your genes. So it's not that simple. So even if your genetic imperative, if your biological imperative is to pass on genes, it might actually lead you to sacrifice your own life, or even sacrifice your own ability to reproduce, in order for someone who's related to you to keep their ability to reproduce. You see what I'm saying? Anyway, ask for clarification. What do you mean by that? Above all else, we want to live. Power and knowledge don't mean anything to the dead, but we all want to die. Power and knowledge don't mean anything to the dead, but we are all going to die. You see what I mean? It doesn't. I mean, we want to live. I guess, people do want to live, but they don't live forever. So surviving is not actually, it's not a possible goal. Unless you're stuck forever debating in some twisted philosophical afterlife. I have to get out of here. Crystal backing? Can you back that up? Tell me, Mr. Jones, do you enjoy being dead? Hasn't been so bad, actually. Oh. Yeah, it's been great. I've been meeting cool people like you. I've been mistaken for a 1,000-year-old missing person. Of course I'd rather be alive. I need to live. I'm very lively, I have to know. No, you don't have to live. You don't actually have to. I think most people my age would do anything to stay alive. I don't know. And I just made your point for you. Indeed, you have my gratitude, Mr. Jones. You'd be surprised how many people successfully kill themselves on purpose. Too many people, really. But they do. How's this related to the conclusion? Further defining the nature of man's self-interest, or rather prioritizing it, is essential to understanding the way our society works. Yeah, no, it's not. A lot of people don't survive, or they choose not to survive. However, in the natural state, there's no security. I ask for clarification. What do you mean by this? Again, the natural state is something that he just made up. He didn't actually prove that the natural state is in fact the natural state. He just kind of made it up. In the natural state, anyone is free to do whatever they please. This includes actions which would cause harm to other people. If we were in the natural state, if I felt to decide, I could kill you without consequences, Mr. Jones, assuming you were not already dead, of course. But I could do the same to you. Is he threatening me? I hope you understand just how little security the natural state affords. However, in the natural state, there's no security, bristle backing. Can you back this up? Our previous discussion illustrated the dangers of the natural state, Mr. Jones. But you made it up. It's something you just made up. But how can we know this state actually exists? Yeah, there we go. It did more or less in the distant past before civilizations developed. Ancient man was in much the same condition as he would be in the natural state. No, before civilizations developed, we lived in tribes and villages and clans and family groups. And we didn't kill each other, we helped each other survive. Long before history. Long before we were even human. Apes and monkeys live in family groups. All of this is supported by archaeology. No, it's not. As well as the study of modern hunter-gatherer societies. No, it's not. All hunter-gatherer societies live in tribes. Like there's no individual humans out there killing other humans. They're always in tribes. They might fight each other. The tribes might fight each other, but there's always cooperation. This guy. Question relevance. How is this related to your conclusion? Lack of security works in tandem with our previously established desires to naturally lead to the next step, Mr. Jones. Alright. Thus, mankind is impelled to seek peace, forming contracts between individuals. Ask for clarification. What exactly do you mean by contracts? Indeed, this could use some elaboration. Very well, by contract, I refer to an agreement between individuals. In such contracts, we agree to give up some of our personal freedoms, most notably our freedom to do harm, because others do as well. Such an agreement confers unto everyone greater security. Interesting. Statement updated. Thus, we form contracts agreeing to give up freedoms in exchange for security.